Hello everybody, my name is Richard McMunn from careervids.com, and in this presentation I'm going to talk to you about how to pass psychometric tests. Now, the type of tests that I'm going to cover during this particular presentation are going to be the basic level entry tests that you will have to undertake during many of today's different selection processes for the jobs that you're going to apply for. Now, the reason why I am covering a basic level during this presentation is because it is important that you learn how to carry out and take basic level psychometric tests before you move up to the more difficult types of tests. You will also receive a lot of tips for preparing for these types of tests, which you will find handy during your preparation. So I'd suggest that you get a pen or a pencil and a blank piece of paper and take some notes during the presentations, because there's some real good pieces of information that will help you prepare. So basically, the first thing we need to do is to look at what psychometric tests are. We can actually break down the word psychometric into two words. First of all, psycho, and the second, metric. And basically, it's measuring your ability to carry out basic calculations and aptitude tests, which should be relevant to the role that you're applying for. So for example, if you're applying for a job as a bank clerk, someone who's going to work in a high street bank like HSBC or Barclays, it would be pointless in that employer testing you against something like mechanical comprehension. It is very important the employer assesses you against a psychometric test that is relevant for the kind of things that you'll have to carry out during your particular role. That is why many of today's psychometric tests will cover verbal reasoning and numerical reasoning. I'll talk a little bit more about those particular areas as I progress through the presentations. So we're basically breaking it down, measuring your mind, your ability to carry out specific tasks and questions that are relevant to the role that you're applying for. So the first important tip is that before you go to the psychometric test, you should look at the job description for the role that you're applying for. You should also make effort to contact the employer, and that might be through the human resources department, to ask them what type of test that you're going to be required to carry out, and therefore you can carry out lots of targeted practice in that area. So an ever increasing number of jobs now require you to sit some form of psychometric test that is based around the key requirements for the role. So I've already mentioned that it should be around the key requirements for the role. The more common types of psychometric tests include verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning, spatial reasoning, and mechanical comprehension. There are many different types of psychometric tests, not just these ones, but these are the more common types of questions that are being used by employers and those carrying out the tests on their behalf during selection processes. The results of the tests are designed to provide the employer with a measure of the candidate's suitability for a specific post. And the reason why they carry out psychometric tests is not just to put you through a difficult pressurized environment, but if you are generally good at psychometric tests, then you are far more likely to perform competently in the role that you're being assessed against. So that is why it is important that you prepare fully for the tests. So the results of the tests are designed to provide them with a measure of your suitability for the post. In the majority of cases, the higher scores you achieve during the test, the more opportunities you will have at your disposal. But it's also important for me to stress that your results of the psychometric test are generally used in conjunction with other areas of the assessment. And that might be through group discussions, part of the application form, and certainly as part of the interview. So if you don't do particularly well in other areas, then you can make it up in different areas of the selection process, and the psychometric test is one of those that you can do. Now, lots of people say to me, Richard, what's the pass mark for my test? The pass mark for the majority of tests is not known, and it is certainly not worth trying to find out what the pass mark is. What you should do is just concentrate on getting as many answers correct in the time period that is provided, because some assessors will take an average score based on the number of people within the group and also based on their average scores. So say, for example, if the majority of the group, or if the average score within the group, people are achieving a certain amount, then they will basically cut off the pass mark at a set period where they want to, a set point of the test itself. So the point I'm making here is don't get too over concerned about the pass mark for the assessment, because it can be based on the average scores of the whole group of people taking the test themselves. Okay, another important area for me to mention is that you should focus on speed as well as accuracy. Now, I've been in tests before where I know people at the end of the exam have rushed through, they see that the clock is ticking down and they decide to guess. Say there's like 10 questions left, they're running out of time and they just guess. Because the majority of psychometric tests are multiple choice in nature. One of the answers in the multiple choice options will be correct and the other 4 will be incorrect, and a couple of them will be very similar to the right answer. And what people tend to do is just guess because they think to themselves, well, I've got a 1 in 5 chance of passing, I might as well go for it. Yes, that is true. However, some assessors will score you down for inaccurate marks, and they do assess you against speed as well as accuracy. So what you need to do before you start guessing is you should ask at the beginning of the test, will we lose marks for incorrect answers? And the assessor should tell you that. And if they say no, you will not lose any marks for incorrect answers, then at the end of the test, if the time is running down, then of course you can guess. If there's a few questions left, then you can have a calculated guess and put down which you believe to be the correct answer. Okay, so don't forget to focus on that. Think about speed as well as accuracy. And do not worry about anybody else in the exam room, about what they're doing. Just focus on your own test. And remember, concentrate on speed as well as accuracy. Now, the first question type that I'm going to focus on is that of spatial reasoning. I am going to cover the other different areas of numerical, verbal, work rate tests and mechanical comprehension as I progress through this presentation. So first of all, let's have a look at spatial reasoning. Now, this is basically the ability to interpret and make drawings from mental images and visualize movement or change in those images. So for example, if you just look at that picture below, the 3-dimensional picture of the box, okay, and below it are 4 different options. One of them, when actually put together, will create that one at the top, and it would be your job to decide which one is the correct one. So you have to visually change these shapes in your mind, put them together, and then decide which is the top one. So that is quite a difficult question. But if we start off on a more basic level, let's take a look at the following 3 shapes, and you'll notice that there are letters on the side of each shape. So we've got A there at the top, B at the side of the triangle, and A at the bottom, and then B on one side of the diamond shape or the square. So what you have to do is join all of the 3 shapes together with the corresponding letters to make the following shape. Now that is quite basic, but it's a good place to start off. So you would place that bottom of the triangle on the top, and then B would go to B there, and it would actually come up with that shape. Now if the question was slightly harder, the different shapes that were available as options might be rotated, and it would then be your job to visualize and move the shapes in your mind to come up with the correct answer. So if we take a look at this question, what we need to do is look at the 3 different shapes in the rectangle at the top, join together the shapes with the corresponding letters, and then decide from A, B, C, D or E, remember their multiple choice, which one is the correct answer. So in your mind you need to put A together on that side and then B at the top. Now you notice that these shapes are all different, but they are rotated around in a different place. So they won't look identical as per if we join these shapes up together. One of them is correct, but it has actually been rotated around, and it is your job to decide which one it is. Now what I would do when tackling this question is first of all do a process of elimination quickly to decide which one or which ones the answer is certainly not. Okay, so we know by looking at B joining on the top there that E is certainly not the right answer, so we can eliminate that straight away. So if you go through each of the shapes, you can decide that they're not correct. So you can look at A, it's on the side there, so we know that C is not correct. We also know that A is not correct, so that leaves B or D. Okay, and the correct answer, because of the way that it would rotate around and fit, is B. The correct answer to this question is B, because even though the shape looks the same for D, it's actually rotated a different way. So if you join these shapes together and then rotate it round, it cannot fit with D. So the correct answer is B. So that is a good tip, is to think about doing a quick process of elimination. And all I did there was join B on the top there in my mind, so the triangle would sit at the top, and I know straight away it is not E. I then join A to the side there, and I can therefore eliminate straight away C and A, and that leaves me with B and D. And that's a great way. Do a process of elimination first. This is a different type of spatial reasoning test question. First of all, we have to look at the two objects below, and you'll see that there are three-dimensional shapes. That shape is shorter than one at the right, but you can see that there is a black dot strategically placed on a certain corner of that shape. You have to decide which of the four options below, A, B, C or D, demonstrates both objects rotated with the dot in the correct position. So if we look at the different options below, now when you first look at the screen it can be very confusing. Now what I would do is take just one of the shapes first of all. Don't worry about the one on the right. So if we take that shape at the top and if we rotate it down to the left, we would see that that dot would end up on the top left there, because it would just fall down on the side to the left, it would be at the top. Therefore, we can eliminate A straight away. What we can do, if we rotate it around down to the bottom, we would see that it would be down here on the left hand side. So C is certainly an option. You would do that for all of the shapes on the left. We can eliminate B straight away because that's actually on the right hand side and that one is on the left, so it's definitely not going to be that one. If we rotated round to the right down to the bottom, we would see that it is correct there, so it's either C or D. And then what you would do is you would take the right one based on C or D and then rotate the shape round to decide which is the correct answer. Now because it is there, if we rotated this shape all the way round to the right, then it would be on the bottom right hand corner of the shape. Now you can notice there that it wouldn't be on that side as it is there, so the correct answer is C. And again, I've done that. Okay, I'd need to do it quicker during the test, but the point I'm making here is by a process of elimination with spatial reasoning tests, you can get it down quickly to just two options and then quickly decide which one is the correct answer. Okay, let's take a look at mechanical comprehension tests. Now, mechanical comprehension tests are an assessment that measures an individual's aptitude to learn mechanical skills. And like I said at the beginning of the presentation, it would be pointless someone like the HSBC Bank or Barclays assessing a bank clerk on mechanical comprehension tests, because they wouldn't be required to perform that kind of tests during their everyday working role. However, if somebody was applying to be a train driver or maybe a firefighter or an aircraft engineer, then it is quite possible that they would be required to work with mechanical concepts, and therefore that test should form part of their selection process. The tests are usually multiple choice in nature and they present simple, frequently encountered mechanisms and situations. Now, the majority of mechanical comprehension tests require a working knowledge of basic mechanical operations and the application of physical laws. Now again, you have to use your mind when looking at different shapes and patterns, but there is also an element of common sense applied with mechanical comprehension tests. So let's take a look at this question, and there are many different variations of mechanical comprehension tests. At the end of this presentation, I'll tell you where you can get 250 pages of different sample psychometric tests of varying degrees: spatial reasoning, verbal, numerical, mechanical, etc. Which pendulum out of these four will swing at the slowest speed? Okay, so a pendulum is something that will go backwards and forwards. So if you figure that the black dot, the large there, is a weight which is fixed but can move around in a circular motion, and this black rectangle there is the weight. Now the lower the weight will go, the slower the pendulum will swing, because the weight is at the bottom, so it will swing slower. As the weight moves to the top, the faster it will go. And it's the same with a clock. If you think of a pendulum, the higher the pendulum is at the top, the faster it would swing. So, which pendulum will swing at the slowest speed? And the correct answer to this question is D. Now, of course, you have to understand the basic mechanical concepts of a pendulum. And if you don't, then of course you would struggle. But the way to practice is to carry out lots of test questions, and then you'll get used to the different format of questions that would come up. And this is a kind of simple question, but one that can catch you out. Let's take a look at this one. Now this is very basic, but a lot of people get caught out. Which load is the heaviest? So you can see there that we've got a fulcrum point, basically a swing, and you can see across the top that there is sort of a brown bar, and you've got two objects resting on the top. You've got A and B. Now A to the eye looks larger and it looks heavier. However, the important thing to stress here is that the bar there is perfectly balanced, which means they both weigh the same. So the correct answer is A. They are both the same. Obviously, if one was tilted a different side to the right or the left, then you could say one was heavier than the other, but the correct answer is A, and the giveaway is because the bar is perfectly balanced. It doesn't matter how bigger A is than B, it's the fact that that bar is balanced. So always look out for that with this type of question. Okay, let's take a look at verbal reasoning and verbal ability tests. Now, as I said at the beginning, these types of tests are widely used since most jobs require you either to understand and make decisions based on verbal or written information, or to pass this type of information to other people. In practice, the more straightforward types of questions in this type of test are spelling, grammar and different instructions. They tend to be more applicable to administrative roles, and the reasoning and deduction type of questions to management roles. So the harder type of questions will go with management roles, and the basic ones, which I'm going to show you in a second, are more to administrative roles, and they are certainly more commonplace during psychometric tests. Okay, very basic ones. Let's take a look at the odd one out test. Which of the following words is the odd one out? We have car, aeroplane, train, bicycle and house. And I can tell you that the odd one out is obviously house, because the others are a form of transport. Car is transport, aeroplane, train and bicycle, whereas a house is not a form of transport and is therefore the odd one out. Question 2. Which of the following is the odd one out? Again, right, white, dart, bright, sight. And the odd one out is dart, simply because it does not rhyme with the other words. All of the others rhyme. Question 3. The following sentence has one word missing. Which word makes the best sense of the sentence? So it has to make the best sense. The mechanic worked on the car for 3 hours. At the end of the 3 hours, he was. Now, of course, he could be home. He could be rich. Unlikely, but he could be rich after working on a car for 3 hours. He could be crying because he's tired and fed up of it. He could also be thinking. He might be thinking, why am I doing this job? But the one that makes the most sense is exhausted. The mechanic worked on the car for 3 hours, and at the end of the 3 hours, he was exhausted. That makes the best sense of the sentence. Question 4. The following sentence has 2 words missing. So we're increasing the stakes now. There are 2 words missing. Which 2 words make best sense of the sentence? The man, blank space, to walk along the beach with his dog. He threw the stick and the dog blank spaced it. So you'd have to work through which ones are the correct ones. The man hated to walk along the beach. That's highly unlikely. The man decided to walk along the beach with his dog. Yes, he could do. He threw the stick and the dog wanted it. That doesn't make best sense. The man, if we look at C, the man liked to walk along the beach with his dog. That certainly makes sense. He threw the stick and the dog chased it. That is the correct answer, because the fourth one, D, the man hurried to walk along the beach. That does not make sense. The man hated to walk along the beach. He threw the stick and the dog loved it. That doesn't make sense, that he would hate to walk along the beach with his dog. It just wouldn't make sense. So the best one that makes sense is C. So that is the correct answer. Moving on. The next one, we have to complete the following sentence. Not only blank to Glasgow, but he also visited many other places in Scotland too. So we're talking about a man here. So what we can do is we can eliminate anything with she. So A is no good, and neither D or E. So we're left with B or C. Not only did he to Glasgow, that doesn't make sense. Not only did he go, so the correct answer to that is C. So immediately we can eliminate, because we know it is a man as part of the question. So anything with she in it, we can take out. That's a great tip to use. Look for genders within questions and eliminate anything of the opposite gender. The next one. Sorry, I brought that up. Now, please remember, you blank the test until the teacher tells you to. Okay, and the correct answer here is E. Now, please remember, you are not to start the test until the teacher tells you to. Other ones might make slight sense, some won't fit at all, but that is the one that makes perfect sense with the question. And again, it's a process of elimination. Next one, which of the following is the odd one out? We've got strawberry, raspberry, peach, blackberry and blueberry. And that's quite an easy one because the odd one out is peach, because that is the only one that is not ending in berry. All the others are a form of berry. Next one, which of the following is the odd one out? We have football, wrestling, table tennis, golf and rugby. And I know that wrestling is the odd one out because that is the only one that does not require the use of a ball. They're all sports, granted, but football, you need a ball, table tennis, a ball, golf, a ball, rugby, a ball as well. Okay. So they were very basic standards of different verbal reasoning tests and verbal ability tests. Let's take a look now at numerical reasoning tests. Now these tests again are widely used since most jobs require you either to understand and make decisions based on numerical information and numerical data. Now if you were applying to become a bank clerk, I can guarantee that numerical reasoning tests will form part of the psychometric test process. Okay, first one, very simple. And many of these tests you won't be required to use a calculator or won't be permitted. Calculate 6.99 plus 1809. Many of these you could do in your head. Some test administrators will allow you to write down the answers on a blank sheet of paper, but they usually require you to hand in that blank sheet of paper after the test. Now what I suggest you do is make sure that any workings out are neat on the paper. Okay, make sure that they are neat on the paper because they may look at your form of handwriting and also how you have tackled the tests themselves. So what I've done on the right hand side here is just provide a brief breakdown of how to tackle the question. 6.9 plus 1809 is basically 25.08, which is D. The second one, calculate 13.26 minus 2.22. We work that out to be 11.04, which the correct answer is B. Again, calculate 138.22, subtract 12.45, and the answer is 125.77, which is E. So very basic questions. Here's a different form of numerical reasoning test. Now the clock above reads 10 minutes past 10 a.m. How many degrees will a large minute hand, that's that one there pointing to the 2, have turned when the time reaches 11 a.m. So it basically has to go round 50 minutes, but it's asking us basically the question in regards to degrees. Now there are 360 degrees in one full turn of a circle or a clock hand. So if it went all the way round to 2 o'clock again, it would have gone round 360 degrees. That means there are 30 degrees for every 5 minutes the hand turns. So the hand turns 5, that's done 30 degrees, 60, 90 and so on. Okay, therefore the answer is 270 degrees to get to the to 11 a.m. Okay, so 270 degrees in total. Let's have a look at another question. The fire service reports the following number and type of fires in a 12-month period. So it's listed there: car fires 100, chimney fires 200, house fires 50, derelict building fires 350, rubbish fires 300. What percentage of fires were chimney fires? So the first thing you have to do is add the total number of fires, which equals 1,000. Okay, so add them all up. It's 1,000 fires, and then you have to divide the number of chimney fires, which is the one they're asking, into the total number of fires, which is basically 200 divided by 1,000 equals 0.2 times 100 equals 20%. So the correct answer there is 20%, which is C. Okay, this is a different type of test, which is a graphical test, where you have to interpret numerical data. Now you can look at that and think, I don't really understand that, that's quite confusing. But question number 1. In year 3, which is this year here, how much more than Italy did Germany spend on computer imports? So basically the graph is about computer imports. We're looking at year 3, and the two different generics that we need are Germany and Italy. So there's Italy for year 3, and there is Germany. So we basically need to work out the difference of how much they spent. So to answer this question, you need to look at the figures from Germany and Italy in year 3. Germany spent 1,400 million euros and Italy spent 700 million euros. Now all you have to do to work out how much more Germany spent than Italy is simply calculate the difference, which is 1.4 million minus 1,400 million minus 700 million, which leaves 700 millions euros as the correct answer, and therefore the correct answer is B. So basically, don't look at the graph and become confused, because there are different elements there that we have no interest in. Okay, there are 3 different countries there that we're certainly not interested in, but the graph can look very confusing, or the chart can. So what you need to do is to just concentrate on the elements provided in the question. Okay, another type of psychometric test is work rate tests. Now this form of test assesses your ability to work quickly and accurately whilst carrying out routine routine tasks. Now this type of job again is carried out in electrical jobs and also jobs like train drivers. Now you can see there that there is a chart and it's got numbers across the top, letters in the middle row and then symbols across the bottom. And you're provided with a code, and the code A here is 563. Now what we have to do is take the code 563 and look at the 5 different alternatives below. These are taken from the above grid, and we have to decide which code has been taken from the same columns as code A, okay, which is basically 563. And then we have to work out which one across the bottom, and only one of them will match from that code 563, and the correct answer is B. Okay, because you can see there you've got that shape there on the left which matches on the column of 5 at the top. The next one, which is 6, we can see that the F matches in the same column, and then T 43 matches there. The other ones won't come any close to that particular code, so we're looking for one to match from the same columns, okay, from the alternatives provided at the bottom taken from that code 563. So let's take a look at a sample question. Which of the answers below is an alternative to code 765? So we've got 765, okay, and we need to look at the bottom there and decide which of the alternative codes comes from this particular area, and the answer here is D. Okay, so we've got U, which is in the same column as 7, S, which is in the same column as 6, and we have that diamond shape in the middle there which comes from the same column as 5. So that is the only answer, the correct one, which is D. Next question, which of the answers below is an alternative to code YEF? So it's not running in a chronological order. We have to go to Y first, E, and then F. So let's take a look at the different alternative codes below. And the correct answer again is D. So if you start off there with Y, we have that shape there which matches in the same column. We then go to E, which has that one, and it needs to be in the same order. And if we go to F, then the correct one is 2 there, and that's an alternative code. You'll notice that the others do not match in the same column and in the same order. Okay, well I hope you've enjoyed that presentation on how to pass psychometric tests. If you look below the YouTube video, I've provided you with a link to download a 250-page guide. It contains hundreds of psychometric test questions ranging from numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, work rate tests, spatial reasoning, mechanical comprehension, the lot. There are plenty of questions in there for you to download. So please, I hope you like this video. If you do, click the like button and then go to the page below the video to download the rest of the questions. I wish you all the very best in your pursuit to passing your psychometric test. Like I say, I've been Richard McMunn. Thank you very, very much for watching.